Hey everyone, and welcome back to Sip and Talk. Ready to dive deep into some brain stuff today? Oh man, I feel like I need a drink before we even get started. Just thinking about this whole topic kind of makes my head spin, Well, good thing we've got our drinks ready. Cheers to that. It's funny because we were just talking about how we both feel like our brains are constantly fried these days. Seriously, it's like we're juggling a million things at once. Work, social media, emails, the news. Ugh, it's exhausting. Do you ever feel like you can't focus on anything for more than 5 minutes? All the time. And the worst part, I actually thought I was getting good at multitasking. I can answer emails, scroll through Instagram, and have a conversation all at the same time. Turns out, that might be a big fat lie, according to all the research we dug up. So that's what we're diving into today. The attention economy. And let me tell you, the stuff we found is kind of mind-blowing. Yeah, we've got a whole stack of articles and research about how all this information overload is affecting our brains. And spoiler alert, it's not pretty. But before we get into all the doom and gloom, let's start with the basics. What exactly is the attention economy? Because honestly, I wasn't even sure myself before we started the whole deep dive.
Well, it's basically a system where our attention is the most valuable resource, right? So companies are constantly competing for it because the more attention they can grab, the more money they can make. Think about it. Every notification, every ad, every crazy headline, it's all designed to pull you in and keep you engaged.
So it's like we're all just little dollar signs walking around. And every time we click on something or scroll through our feeds, we're adding to someone's bottom line.
Pretty much. And the scary part is, we're often not even aware of how much our attention is being manipulated.
It's crazy? I read that judges actually make worse decisions at the end of the day because their brains are basically fried. Literally, their brains are tired from making so many choices.
That's a real thing. It's called decision fatigue. And it affects all of us, not just judges. The more decisions we have to make throughout the day, the harder it becomes for our brains to function at their best.
So basically, by the end of the day, our brains are like, nope, I'm done. I can't even decide what to eat for dinner, let alone make any life-altering choices.
Exactly. And that's just one tiny example of how this constant barrage of information is impacting our cognitive abilities.
Okay, so we're making bad decisions because we're mentally exhausted. Got it. But I still want to talk about multitasking because, like I said, I thought I was good at it. I felt like a superhero, juggling all these tasks at once. Am I really just fooling myself?
Well, research by psychologist Clifford Nass suggests that chronic multitasking can actually make us worse at focusing and adapting to new information. It's like trying to juggle too many balls at once. Eventually, you're going to drop them all.
Wait, seriously. So all those times I was patting myself on the back for being a multitasking master, I was actually making my brain less efficient.
It's not about being less efficient. It's more that your brain can't properly focus on each individual task because it's constantly switching gears. Imagine trying to write an email while also listening to a podcast and scrolling through social media.
Yeah.
Your brain is trying to do too many things at once, and it can't give any of them its full attention.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I guess that explains why I feel so scattered-brained all the time. It's like my brain is a web browser with a million tabs open and it's about to crash. Speaking of crashing, can we talk about stress? I mean, this whole attention economy thing is already stressing me out. I know I felt way more anxious during the pandemic when I was basically glued to the news 24/7. It was just a constant stream of doom and gloom, and I just couldn't turn it off.
That makes total sense. There's this neuroscientist named Dr. Moran Cerf. He's done a lot of research on how information overload affects our brains, and he's found that it can trigger the release of all these stress hormones, like cortisol, which can then lead to chronic stress and anxiety.
So is it basically like our brains are stuck in fight or flight mode all the time?
Yeah.
Because of this constant influx of information. That's kind of what it feels like.
That's a great way to put it. Your brain doesn't always know the difference between a real threat and a perceived threat, like a negative news story or a stressful email. So it reacts by releasing those stress hormones, even if you're not in any actual danger.
Okay, so far that's not painting a pretty picture of the attention economy. But I have a question. What about the fact that the human brain is amazingly adaptable? There are people, pilots, investment managers who have to process tons of information all the time, right? And they seem to handle it just fine.
That's a good point. And you're right, our brains are incredibly adaptable. But even that adaptation has limits. Too much stress for too long is still detrimental, even if we don't consciously feel it. Think of it like running a marathon every day. You might be able to do it for a while, but eventually your body will break down.
Okay, so maybe it's not a full-blown war on our brains, but it's definitely a battle.
Yeah.
And that leads us to a big question. Do we need to disconnect? like completely unplug from the matrix to save our sanity. Because some people, like Jack Dorsey, swear by these digital detoxes, while others, like Elon Musk, seem to thrive on constant information flow.
It's a good question. And the answer might not be as simple as like a complete disconnect. A lot of the research suggests that it's more about how we manage that information flow. It's not about becoming a Luddite and ditching all technology. It's about having strategies in place to protect your attention.
So it's not about going full-on hermit mode, but about finding ways to tame the information beast. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Taming the information beast is like we need to train it to work for us, not against us.
Totally. But before we get into those training tactics, we want to hear from you guys. What strategies do you use to stay sane in this world of constant distractions? Hit us up in the comments and share your wisdom. We're all in this together, folks. And when we come back, we'll dive into some practical brain hacks to help you survive and thrive in this crazy attention economy. Stay tuned.
All right, we're back and ready to tackle those brain hacks. Hit us with the good stuff. What can we actually do to protect our attention in this digital jungle?
Well, one of the simplest yet most effective strategies is setting boundaries.
Boundaries, like telling my phone to back off? Because honestly, sometimes it feels like my phone is running my life.
Exactly. It's about creating those designated times for being online and offline. For example, you could try having phone-free mornings or evenings.
Ooh, that's a good one. Like actually putting your phone in a drawer and pretending it doesn't exist.
I'm not sure that's strong-willed, but I'm willing to try.
It's all about starting small. Maybe just an hour at first, and then gradually increase the time. The key is to give your brain a chance to disconnect and recharge without that constant stream of notifications and distractions.
So like a mini digital detox every day. I can get behind that. What else you got?
Another powerful tool is mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Isn't that like meditation and stuff? I'm not sure I'm the sitting cross-legged chanting type.
Well, it doesn't have to be that intense. In this context, mindfulness is about being more aware of how you're using technology. Ask yourself, am I scrolling mindlessly? Is this app actually adding value to my life? Or am I just wasting time? That hits close to home. Sometimes I catch myself just staring at my phone like a zombie with no idea what I'm even looking at.
Exactly. And that's where mindfulness comes in. It's about being intentional with your tech use. So if you're going to be online, have a purpose. If you're going to scroll, set a timer, be in control, not the other way around.
Mindful scrolling, huh? I like it. It's like giving myself permission to scroll, but with limits. But this all seems kind of modern. Did our ancestors have to worry about this stuff? Were cavemen stressed about too many cave paintings?
That's a great point. And actually, the research suggests that spending time in nature can be incredibly beneficial for our brains. It's like hitting the reset button on all that digital overload.
Nature, huh? So basically, we need to trade our screen time for some tree time.
Exactly. Studies show that spending time in nature can lower stress levels, improve focus, and even boost creativity. So get outside, take a walk in the park, go for a hike. Your brain will thank you.
All right, I'm sold. Nature it is. But before we all go frolicking through the forest, there's something else we wanted to talk about. The future of the attention economy. It's kind of mind-blowing to think that technology could one day filter out all the noise for us. Imagine a world where you only see information that's actually relevant for you.
That's definitely a possibility. With all the advancements in AI and personalized algorithms.
Right. No more spam, no more irrelevant ads, no more endless doom scrolling. Sign me up.
It sounds appealing, doesn't it? But there are some ethical considerations to think about.
Ooh, here comes the reality check. What kind of ethical dilemmas are we talking about?
Well, for one, who decides what's relevant? If an algorithm is curating our information intake, could that lead to echo chambers or manipulation? We might end up in a bubble where we only see what we want to see, and that can be dangerous.
Whoa, that's deep. It's like that saying, be careful what you wish for. We might get rid of the noise, but at what cost?
Exactly. It's important to be aware of the potential downsides of these technologies, even if they seem beneficial on the surface. Critical thinking and exposure to diverse perspectives are crucial for navigating this complex information landscape.
Okay, so maybe a perfectly curated information stream isn't the answer. But if you could control your information intake perfectly, what would that look like for you? Hit us up in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. But for now, I think my brain needs another refill. What about you?
Definitely. Time for a sip break.
I just want to give another shout out to Micky from Micky to Life. His channel is a treasure trove of inspiration, and he's a huge Sip and Talk fan.
Absolutely. Make sure to check him out and maybe even share your awesome podcast intro with him once you've created it. Okay, we're back, refreshed and ready to wrap this whole thing up.
We went deep on that one. My brain is actually feeling the burn. It's like we just ran a mental marathon through the attention economy. But hey, at least we learned some pretty cool stuff along the way. So let's do a super quick recap of the key takeaways, right? Number one, multitasking is a myth. Our brains are actually terrible at juggling a million things at once.
Yep. And all that juggling can lead to stress, anxiety, and just decreased focus overall. It's so important to remember that our brains need breaks. They're not designed to be on all the time.
Which brings us to takeaway number two. We need to find those strategies. The ones that work for us to protect our attention. Whether it's setting boundaries, practicing mindfulness, or spending more time in nature, it's all about finding what helps you tame that information beast.
Yeah.
And I imagine access to diverse information and perspectives can also be a really powerful driver of creativity and innovation.
Absolutely. The research highlights the potential for innovation and problem solving that comes from having access to a wide range of information. Think about the development of artificial intelligence, for example. That wouldn't be possible without the ability to process massive amounts of data.
Information overload has its downsides.
Right.
But it also presents some unique opportunities.
Information overload isn't all bad. Sometimes that rapid flow of information can be really crucial, during an emergency.
Right, like knowing where to go during a natural disaster or what to do. So it seems like it's not just about reducing information,
Right.
but becoming more discerning about what we consume and how we manage it.
Exactly. It's about being intentional with our attention. Try leaving your phone in another room when you're working on a task.
So it's about creating those little pockets of disconnection throughout the day.
Exactly. And as you get more comfortable, you can gradually expand those pockets. You might even find that you enjoy being unplugged more than you thought you would.
Yeah, I can see how it would be a relief to step away from all the constant notifications and updates. Almost like giving your brain a chance to breathe.
It really is. And speaking of training our brains, another important strategy is mastering focus techniques.
Oh, okay.
It's like working out your mental muscles to strengthen your attention span.
Makes sense. Our attention spans are being bombarded constantly these days. Are there specific techniques the research suggests?
The Pomodoro technique is a popular one. It involves working in focused bursts, with short breaks in between.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one. You set a timer for 25 minutes of focused work and then take a 5-minute break. Seems to work pretty well for a lot of people.
Yeah, it kind of utilizes our natural rhythms of attention and rest. And then there's mindfulness meditation, which can be surprisingly effective at training your brain to stay present and resist distractions.
Meditation does seem to be gaining a lot of traction these days. Is there something specific about mindfulness that helps with information overload?
Well, with mindfulness meditation, you learn to kind of become more aware of your thoughts and feelings without judgment. So instead of getting swept away by every single notification or thought that pops up, you can develop the ability to observe those distractions and choose how you respond to them.
So it's kind of like you're hitting the reset button for your mind.
Exactly. It helps you to regain control of your attention and create some mental space.
Okay, so digital detox is about taking breaks from the constant flow of information.
Right.
And focus techniques are about strengthening our ability to engage with it intentionally. It seems like we're kind of building up our defenses. What about the content itself? Is there anything we can do to be more discerning about the information we consume?
That's where the information diet comes in. Just like we make choices about the food we eat to nourish our bodies, we need to be mindful of the information we consume to nourish our minds.
I like that analogy. We wouldn't want to just fill up on junk food all the time.
Right. Exactly. So start by looking at your sources of information. Are they diverse? Are they credible? Are you getting a balanced perspective, or are you just stuck in an echo chamber?
Yeah, it's easy to fall into that trap, especially with social media algorithms kind of feeding us more of what we already agree with.
That's why it's crucial to be proactive about seeking out different perspectives and challenging your own assumptions. And it's not just about what you consume, but also how you consume it.
What do you mean by that?
Well, think about how much information we consume in these bite-sized chunks these days. Headlines, social media posts, short videos. While they may seem convenient, they can actually really fragment our attention and make it harder to process information deeply.
So constantly switching between these different bits of information might actually be making it harder to focus and think critically.
Exactly. Engaging with long-form content, like books, in-depth articles, or even podcasts like this one, can help us to develop our ability to focus and think critically.
Yeah, it's like the difference between snacking and having a full, nourishing meal.
That's a great way to put it. And beyond these individual strategies, it's important to remember those broader societal solutions we touched upon earlier.
You're talking about things like AI filters to personalize information, and media literacy education to help people evaluate sources, and even government regulations to address excessive digital overload.
Exactly. Those are all important pieces of the puzzle. It's not just about individual effort. We need to create a societal environment that supports healthy information consumption.
So it seems like a multi-pronged approach is needed to tackle this challenge.
It is, and it's an ongoing process. There's no one-size-fits-all solution or magic bullet. It's about experimenting, finding what works best for you, and adapting as needed.
So what about the future? We talked before about some pretty mind-blowing possibilities like brain-computer interfaces and the idea of attention as currency. What are your thoughts on where all of this is heading?
The think piece, Aislinn really dives into these future considerations, and it definitely sparks the imagination. The idea of information flowing directly into our brains raises some fascinating questions.
Yeah, it does seem straight out of science fiction, doesn't it? But what about the potential downsides? You mentioned this concept of attention as currency. What implications does that have?
The piece argues that as our collective attention becomes more fragmented and more valuable, it could have some significant consequences.
Oh.
It could impact our ability to engage in thoughtful debate, make informed decisions, and even preserve our cultural heritage.
That's a sobering thought. It's almost like we're at a crossroads, right? We have all this incredible power at our fingertips with technology, but it comes with the responsibility to use it wisely.
It does feel that way. We're not just passive recipients of information. We have the power to shape how it affects us, both individually and as a society.
That's a powerful message. It's not about rejecting technology altogether, but about using it mindfully and intentionally.
Absolutely. The think piece concludes by reminding us that we're not powerless in this situation. We have choices to make, choices about how we consume information and how we design the technologies that are shaping our world.
So where do we go from here? What's the takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I think the most important message is that we need to be aware of the challenges of information overload and take proactive steps to manage it.
Like implementing those practical strategies we discussed. Digital detox, focus techniques, and being mindful of our information diet.
Exactly. And remember, this is a journey, not a destination. We're all figuring this out together.
It's about taking back control of our attention, making conscious choices about our information consumption, and advocating for a more mindful digital world.
Well said. We'll be back soon for the final part of this deep dive, where we'll recap some key takeaways and leave you with some final thoughts to ponder.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into information overload. Everything from decision fatigue to the potential of brain-computer interfaces.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, through the research, the thought pieces, and even that popular science article you found.
And it's clear that information overload is a really complex issue with no easy answers. But I think you've offered some really insightful perspectives and practical advice along the way. As we wrap up, I'd love to kind of touch on a few key takeaways and leave our listeners with, some food for thought.
That sounds great. Where would you like to start?
Well, one of the things that really struck me is just how much our brains are working behind the scenes to process all this information. We talked about decision fatigue and how even, seemingly small choices can drain our mental energy.
Yeah, it really is amazing how much mental bandwidth we expend just navigating our daily lives in this information-saturated world. And, the research highlighted how this constant decision-making can lead to that cognitive overload, right? And that impacts everything from our focus to our ability to make sound judgments.
And it's not just the quantity of information, but also the way our brains are wired.
Yeah.
We explored how our brains kind of create this virtual world using those mental shortcuts called heuristics.
Right.
And these shortcuts can be really helpful for making quick decisions, but they can also lead to biases and errors in judgment.
That's right. The examples we discussed, like the hollow face illusion and that whole dress color debate, really highlight how our perception can be influenced by these mental shortcuts. It's a good reminder that we don't always have an objective view of reality.
So what can we do about it? We're not just passive victims of information overload. I mean, you've offered some great practical strategies for navigating this landscape more effectively.
Absolutely. One of the most important takeaways, I think, is that we have agency. We can make conscious choices about how we engage with information.
Right. We talked about the importance of building healthy habits, like, creating those pockets of disconnection through digital detox. Even just a couple of hours a day without screens can make a big difference.
And beyond just disconnecting, it's really crucial to actively strengthen our attention muscles. We explore techniques like the Pomodoro technique and mindfulness meditation. These can help us to train our brains to be more focused and present.
It's like anything else. If you want to get better at something, you need to practice.
Exactly. And speaking of practice, being mindful of our information diet is another really key strategy. Just like we nourish our bodies with healthy food, we need to be just as discerning about the information that we consume.
It's about choosing quality over quantity, seeking out diverse perspectives, and being aware of the impact that all that constant fragmented information can have on our ability to really focus and think critically.
Well said. And beyond these individual efforts, we also touched on the need for some broader societal solutions.
Right.
Things like media literacy education, AI filters to help personalize information, and even, government regulations. All these things could play a role in shaping a healthier information environment.
It really seems like we need a multi-pronged approach to really address this challenge. But at the end of the day, it comes down to individual empowerment. We have more control than we think.
I completely agree. And that kind of brings me to the final thought I wanted to leave our listeners with. The future of information is unfolding so rapidly, and it presents both, exciting possibilities and some potential challenges.
Of course.
As our brains continue to adapt to ever-increasing amounts of information, we need to ask ourselves, what will it even mean to be overloaded in the future?
That is a great question to ponder. Are we heading towards a future where our brains can seamlessly process vast amounts of information? Or will there always be a limit to how much we can handle?
It's hard to say for sure, but one thing is certain. Our relationship with information is evolving. And as we move forward, it's crucial to cultivate awareness, intentionality, and that sense of agency in how we navigate this ever-changing landscape.
Well said. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into information overload. We hope you gain some valuable insights and feel empowered to take control of your information intake and shape a more mindful digital future.
It's been my pleasure, and until next time, stay curious.